Steph Curry yesterday, the chef was cooking. It was an unbelievable performance, but I want to save some of the Steph discussion for the next segment because I would like to ask this simple question, which the answer was a lot simpler, I think, than I even thought watching yesterday and considering this question until I sat down to actually hash it out. Is Stephen Curry already a top 10 all-time NBA player? I was stunned at how easy the answer is. I'll tell you the answer coming up at 6:30. But I think on a larger scale, Anthony, before we get into Curry himself, it's important to point out that yesterday was as prime of an example as you will ever see of a champion versus a team that has not been there. And Steph carried the load for them offensively yesterday in a way that was truly absurd. He took 38 shots. He was fairly efficient in those 38 shots, even though he missed 2 free throws, something Steph Curry never does. Klay Thompson missed a bunch of free throws yesterday. Wiggins missed free throws. Wiggins also missed a ton of layups. Klay had a miserable shooting day. And yet, it was a 20-plus point win for the defending champions because they achieved the level that the Sacramento Kings didn't know existed. And it was fairly obvious to me as the game went on that as long as some offense caught eventually for the Warriors, that's where that was heading. And I was laughing at people who were like, man, the Kings are playing so well. The Kings are hanging in there. I was like, even some basketball people, like Van Gundy was saying on the broadcast, like, oh, Sabonis is playing great. Like this, they got to feel good. If I'm Mike Brown, I tweeted out, I have the evidence. I have the receipts. I tweeted out at halftime. If I'm Mike Brown going into halftime up 2, I felt horrible. I would be pooping myself going into halftime if I'm Mike Brown up 2, considering how Klay Thompson had shot. It felt like the Kings were playing as well as they could possibly play. They're moving the ball well. They're getting out in transition. They're hitting shots. The crowd's into it. And you do all that. The Warriors are playing kind of like crap, and you're only up 2 at halftime? It's a wrap, bro. Because eventually Klay got going enough, and then Steph did what Steph does in third quarters. He lost his ever-loving mind, went on a run. They're up 10, and then they close it out in the fourth. And the Kings just didn't know that level of basketball existed. And there was a great story in The Athletic this morning by Shams Charania and Marcus Thompson about how Steph, who doesn't speak up very often, got out in front of the team the other day and was basically, like, after Game 6, he couldn't sleep. So he turns over in his bed at 3:45 in the morning and texts Draymond. Draymond also couldn't sleep, so he's up, and they start firing texts back and forth. And Steph, Draymond's like, I think I'm going to say something. And Steph goes, I got this one. And Draymond's like, you got it, champ. And Steph basically said, if you guys bring your A game, I will make sure we win. You just come try. You do what you do to the best of your abilities. No feelings, no nothing. If you get on the bus, I mean, this was literally what he said, according to multiple recounts of the story in The Athletic. If you get on the bus, you're committing to the team. If you're not ready to do that, stay home. Don't get on the bus. And apparently that was directed at guys like Jordan Poole, who might have been a little upset about minutes. Jonathan Kuminga, a little upset about minutes. And sure enough, everyone gets on the bus, makes that commitment, and damned if he didn't make it true. Klay Thompson, awful, awful shooting night. He was a menace defensively. He was awesome. So good. Draymond, fantastic. Kevon Looney, what can you say? 21 rebounds. Dominated Domas Sabonis. And to see that come together, to see the level of desperation, to see the level of the high level of force they played with, the Kings didn't know that you could do that. And that's the difference in a champion, a true champion. And I think sometimes this stuff gets overrated. Sometimes it's like, oh, the heart of a champion. No. Yesterday was heart of a champion stuff. Skill of a champion, and sometimes the skill is playing hard. Knowing exactly how much you have in the tank and leaving it all out there. And that's what the Warriors did yesterday to a level that the Kings could not reach. Now that they know, we'll find out who they are. But yesterday, Game 7-ish, they quite literally weren't ready.
I don't even know what to say. I think you just said everything I was, thinking about, Steph Curry's performance. It's just, I think these are the types of games like myself and like other fans, basketball fans in general, want to see out of Steph. I want to see Steph push to the brink. So him being in a Game 7, and yes, he's appeared in other Game 7s, but him with this unit right here where he has to be the guy for his unit and for him to go out there and dominate the entire game, going out, scoring 50, and ultimately leading his team to the second round, it just makes me appreciate Steph a little bit more because, again, we're witnessing greatness. And sometimes I think his greatness gets overlooked, and I'm glad that he's
I agree.
out here, making a name or continue to, make a name for himself because he already has a name.
I think there's a level that great players get to where they figure it out.
Yeah.
And like MJ obviously got to this level. LeBron, I feel like, has been at this level for a decade now, where when you're that great, like top 10 all-time great, and you figure it out, there are no more duds in big moments. You might lose, but like you will go down. I mean, LeBron in the 2017 finals, he didn't have a chance. There was no way he was winning that series. Steph was pretty much near the peak of his powers. KD was at the absolute peak of his powers. Clay was still great. Draymond was great. Iguodala was still great. Like, that is one of, if not the greatest teams to ever step on a basketball court. And LeBron damn near made it interesting by himself. And if he hadn't punched a whiteboard after game one, like, who knows? But he goes out, drops 50, and obviously J.R. Smith has the ultimate brain fart, the whole deal. But like, they messed around and almost made that thing interesting. Like, and that was like classic LeBron. And by the time LeBron got back to Cleveland, like, LeBron had figured it out. Even the series he loses in Miami to San Antonio, the first year they lose to Dallas, you can criticize LeBron in a major way for that. He lost to J.J. Barea is kind of the meme-ified version of it, right? But when they lose to San Antonio, like, everyone else stunk that series. That wasn't LeBron. LeBron was awesome in that series, but there was nothing he could do because everyone else was dead. Wade was out of gas. Bosch was he even playing by that point? No, he still was, but he was kind of out of gas. Battier, the end of his run. Ray Allen, end of his run. Like, those guys were done. But LeBron had figured it out, and you see that when he gets to Cleveland, 2015, 2016, obviously they win the championship. So, you just see that greatness where in the big moments, he's coming through. And Steph has reached that level. Steph has had that final, it's like when you beat the final boss in a video game. Like, Steph is the boss now. He is the captain now. And that's what's going to make this series, by the way, so much fun, is you're going to have two of those dudes going at it. I will say, I know this is going to hurt your soul because you're a massive LeBron fan.
Don't
we
do
have
it.
finally seen the start of LeBron aging, which it's about time that he started aging. He's 40 or 39, whatever he is. He's been playing for 20 years. And I think Steph is still at maximum capacity. And I think, honestly, that might be the difference in the series. Like, obviously, there's going to be role players that play a big factor. But when it comes down to that time where the absolute cream rises, I, at this point, trust Steph to have it in him on a level that, for literally the first time in about 17 years, I can't say I trust LeBron to get there. And that makes AD the wild card because, like, AD can have those moments, but he doesn't have them with the consistency of the level of greatness that we're talking about.
And AD is chasing what you just said. Steph has finally figured out. And I think really Steph figured it out last year during the finals run. I think him winning the finals last year is probably the best thing for his career because I do, and this is me, taking my LeBron bias out of this situation. I do give the Warriors a slight edge just because of the run that Steph Curry is on. And, the Warriors are back to, like, figuring out. They're almost, the team that they were in 2015. Yes, you have different role players, but Draymond, Clay, and Steph.
Well, the thing with the 2015 team was their depth was outrageous.
Depth,
Like, Jordan Poole's got to get his head out of his behind and figure it out.
Inconsistent.
But here's the thing. Like, in the regular season, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, Looney, best 5-man lineup in the NBA. Like points per 100 possessions, they outscored their opponents more than anyone else who played like, it was like, I think I did it today, even like 500 minutes together. Like they were, of regular lineups that played, they were the best. And it wasn't, I won't say it wasn't close, but like the gap between them and the Nuggets starters was not insignificant. So they're special. Let me say this about the Kings real quick, and then we will get to whether Steph Curry is a top 10 all-time NBA player. De'Aaron Fox is that dude.
Yep.
He is it. He will, if he gets with the right best player, he is ready to be a 1B on a championship team yesterday. He's that good. He's that mentally made up correct. We are going to find out if Domas Sabonis is worth anything next season. Because the way he wilted, and even, like, I know Draymond made a big deal out of it, but, like, not shaking hands after a series like that, to me, it tells me a little bit about your character competitively, right? Doesn't mean, like, you're going to go and knock a grandma over in a crosswalk. Like, that's not what I'm saying about his character. But, like, it tells me something about your competitive character. And his sourness about this series tells me something about him if he does not then turn it around into bouncing back, maturing and growing, and becoming better, because he got his ass kicked by Kevon Looney yesterday, and the fear that he had of taking and making jump shots, the fact that the Warriors just straight up disrespected him and he didn't take that as like, okay, and drop 35 points a game, just hitting 18-foot jumper after 18-foot jumper. Hey, buddy, you better be practicing that 18-foot jumper and getting three-point range this offseason because you're going to need it.
This is Wes Unseld Jr.
Beal left wing outside the arc, stops, takes a three. It's there.
You listen to The Hoffman Show on Team 980
Assassin like
on the Odyssey app.